started because it's a really cool topic I have to share and some good recipes. And I know you're dying to know about tofu. So this is the simplest ever recipe for tofu. I will let you know some other ideas if you want to explore it today. So first, I want to say a big thank you to Gilda's Club and to Trinity Foundation. So they make these classes possible, so available to anybody in the community. So big thank you to them. And please make sure you check out the Gilda's resources. If you know of anybody that is touched by cancer, they have such wonderful resources there. Well, welcome back for our final class. Exciting, but also sad at the same time. So just know that you've got a great foundation to go forward from here. So just, you know, it's about moving forward, taking that baby step forward, and occasionally there's a stumble, but there's a lot of gifts involved in that. So you've got the foundation, move forward. You're always welcome to take other classes. So you're always welcome to repeat this. I will offer this again in January is when I offer it next. So please encourage people. And we do need your help getting the word out there. Our biggest actually referral into these classes now is people who have taken it. We've been working on this for 3 years to get referrals. We're still working, trying to get known in the medical community. You'd be surprised, but they have so much on their plate. So getting them to realize that we have this. Yes.
I know this is probably ridiculous. But have you ever been on Paula Sands line?
I have, like, yes, at points. So, but not recently. I work with the marketing. So, yeah. So no, that's a great idea. So getting on there, we try to find, come on in, timely topics sometimes to be on there. So, oh, is it locked? I didn't. Oh, I never unlocked it. Sorry. So sorry about that. Come on in. Yes. You can help out by bringing in your binder to your doctor visit and letting them know you took this class, you learned a lot. So that really helps because, again, you know, doctors are being bombarded with stuff. This isn't like a referral, so it's not like they need to go on Epic and refer it. It's actually just anybody can refer you here, you know, just. So we're trying to get the medical community to understand that this is a valuable resource they can refer to, and they're in a position to capture some patients that would benefit a lot from it too. So, so I appreciate that, any kind of help there. So, and I appreciate you guys coming to class, taking the time out of your day to be here, those at home, those here, because I know you have plenty of things pulling at you. And by you being here, not only do you learn, but you contribute to the energy in this classroom. So it is so much more fun to just do it with a group. That's my preferred rather than one-on-one. It just, the energy is completely different. I love it. It feeds me. So thank you so much for making it here. I want to hear from you guys. What sort of things did you learn? I don't know if you had a chance to pick up your action step and write down a few notes of things that you learned over the last week, tried out, thought about, rearranged, anything there. Please share.
I made the sweet potatoes with the olive oil and I put the oven at 425. And I'll tell you what, just little coin like medallions, and it goes so fast. And they are delicious. No salt, no pepper, just the olive oil. And my dogs love them too.
Oh, dogs love sweet potatoes. So yes, and Sandy does. Okay, so slicing them. So yes, and you, that's great. So sweet potatoes are so packed with so many things. That coloring is all throughout, so the antioxidants are all throughout. So awesome. Thank you for sharing. Yes, Helen.
Packets of salmon, they have those.
And I tried it for also salmon.
Yeah, and also, I can't remember if it was julep or.
Okay.
So what section did you find it, Helen?
They have the canned tuna.
Canned tuna. Okay, so she got low sodium canned tuna in packets. She got salmon. So, okay, with a pouch. Okay, awesome. Spectacular. So yay. Great things always coming out. Other learnings.
I did add more mushrooms, started adding more mushrooms.
Ooh, yes, mushrooms. Yes. Awesome. So more mushrooms. We had more mushrooms here. So let me see here. I've got some chats. Is there a chance to get a copy of your PowerPoints? Go ahead and email me. Let me know. I can send them in like a PDF if you ever want them. So kind of thing. So good question. Other sharings? I want to emphasize that this is a journey. And as you're on the journey, it's very easy to get wrapped up in how far you haven't come. Call that the gap instead of the gain. That you focus on what all you've learned, how you're seeing things differently, how you're probably overwhelmed with all the things you want to do. That's okay. Just start baby steps. It's a process. It always is. And just know you're exactly where you need to be and just keep on the journey. So focus on the gain and not the gap. So it's just very easy to get involved with comparing to other people or other things or set these wild expectations. And you know what? You miss all kinds of gifts if you just kind of try and go to this perfection kind of thing. So just know it's a journey and it's riddled with a lot of gifts. It's probably going to go different than you think, but it's going to be a wonderful journey. So, you know what? I need to, does anybody know how to unlock that? You like press it up, that thing in there. Thank you. Sorry, I'm locking people out. Okay. So today's topic, super fun for me. This is rarely covered in the culinary nutrition. It does mean a teeny bit of planning, but there are some simple ways that you can get 10 to 40 times more power out of your food. Pretty cool, like fighting power, like cancer and heart disease and inflammation, fighting power. So it starts with this beautiful flour. So let me hop on over to my PowerPoint. Okay. So when we're talking about some power, I want you to look at this flour. So everybody see this is a mustard flour there. It's a beautiful flour. I've seen in Europe when I've driven there, like fields of yellow. It's beautiful when you see it. But this mustard flour, look at it closely and see if you can see a cross. Can you kind of see the 4 petals in the cross? That's where the word cruciferous comes from. So, and all the cruciferous descend from the wild mustard flour. Now, it's been bred through agriculture like 2,000 plus years ago, Great Britain, France, and Mediterranean, but all of them come from there. So kale, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, cabbage, all varieties are from the single magical plant. So to see kind of where they come from, here's kind of a graph to kind of see that some are from the stems, some are from the leaves, some are from the flowers. But it's just amazing that these cruciferous all come from the mustard. Now, here is a more complete list. I know this is mind-boggling, and I'll send out the PDF for everybody, so you'll have that of all the slides there. But to me, it's amazing. One of my, favorite vegetables is bok choy. It's right there. Broccoli. It's so easy to get a lot of cruciferous, and it's so powerful for cancer and heart disease. So here's kind of what happens. There's glucosinolates in these cruciferous, and there's also in the plant myrosinase that ASE tells you it's an enzyme. They're neighbors, but they don't know about one another until you cut them or chop them or chew them. So they then mix once you start to chop them. And when you chop them, then you get formed these isothiocyanates. And that's a grouping that you might have heard in the research, things like indoles and sulforaphanes, which are very powerful for cancer. So, and that's what happens. So, so just by chopping, you start to create these magical compounds. But heat and acid from our stomach destroys the myrosinase. So if you make a smoothie, you're fine until you eat it. But once you cook, you're starting to destroy some of it. Now, the maximum we know from research is about 10 to 40 minutes. when you let it sit and have this kind of marriage form. So that's one way, is just letting them sit before you combine them, heat them, eat them, that kind of thing. But we don't always have that time. So the good thing is vegetables can sit out the counter. You can chop them in the morning, put them in a container. You can even chop them the night before. That's why always, if I get bagged kale, which I always get disappointed when I do. I actually did once for this class and never have done it again because they have the stem always on the chopped kale. I'm like, you need to take that off. So, but I would chop it like cabbage. If I get cabbage that for like a coleslaw mix, I'll chop it some so I get some more of that myrosinase to form. So, because I'm not sure what their treatment is, if they let it form or if they just quickly did something with it. So, there is some other things that you can do to help if you don't have the 40 minutes. So, you can add 1/4 teaspoon of mustard. And that goes for 7 cups just before you serve it. So you can add that to the dressing. You can just sprinkle that on because it comes from mustard has glucosinolates in it. Even that powder you have, I know it does. I've looked at it. I'm like, does this acidic? It does. It has some myrosinase in there, enough to get that going. Or you could just add like a tablespoon of chopped broccoli really finely. Again, you're just trying to marry some of the raw with the cooked, if you cooked it before you eat it, kind of thing. So again, you just need a little bit. Horseradish, wasabi, those are all cruciferous guys in there. Now, sometimes they add cream to the horseradish, and that radish is a cruciferous. So, just, making your own recipe where you add just a tablespoon of that before you serve it. And I'm talking tablespoon, not per serving. I'm talking like for like 7 cups. You just need a little bit and mix it through. So pretty cool that you can do that. Yes.
Would that be any kind of mustard?
Yes, you're gonna get mustard. I mean, I'm sure there's a little different but from the research I've read, it's 1/4 teaspoon of mustard powder. Powder, sorry, powder. But you have mustard powder in mustard. So if we're adding that, I'd be confident you're still getting that going on. So you want to do that. So when we talk about cruciferous benefits for cancer, we have very strong evidence for stomach, colon, rectal, lung, a little weaker for bladder, breast, prostate, ovarian, endometrial. But overall, if somebody wants, I call it my golden plan for cancer, 5 times a week cruciferous. That's what I would do, 5 times a week. If you can get to 5 servings, now if you're at none, then 1 is going to make a huge difference. But if you want to stair-step your way up with broccoli, it's not that hard, guys. Most every week I've had something that's cruciferous in there. So, fluorophane, which is created with these magical compounds, blocks cancer proliferation, induces apoptosis, which is a clearing away of the dead cells. It's the cells that are almost dead that stick around that create a lot of problem for cancer. So that helps get it out of there. It prevents METs. It slows progression of benign and malignant tumors. So that's what we know in vitro. So again, it's hard to know direct relationships, but we know that. Camphorol is another thing that we find in cruciferous. It's a powerful phytochemical. It's good at killing cancer cells and preserving healthy cells. Heart health, we see LDLs go down, not 5 to 10 points, but we see them, some actions that slow the plaque development. Inflammation, we see lower levels of several key factors with inflammation. Now, there is 2 conditions that we do say caution for cruciferous. That is hypothyroidism, so Hashimoto disease, because there's some concern there. So just check with your doctor before you go to 5 servings a week. And then if you're on a blood thinner, the vitamin K, sometimes depending upon how you're thinning your blood, could be a concern. But always never, ever say, if you're on a blood thinner, oh, I'm going to not eat the cruciferous. They can adjust your medication. So just know that. So I would never have anybody not eat them for that. But the thyroid, do check with your doctor. It's a little trickier. Garlic, it's a different formula that takes place, but kind of like cruciferous, heat stops it. And you only need to let it sit for 10 minutes to get the maximum heat. You still retain about 70% of the allicin, which creates 4 different cancer compounds. So you can chop, crush, or mince and let it sit for 10 minutes. So when you look at a recipe, instead of preheating the oven, look for your garlic and your cruciferous right away and get those chopped before you even turn the oven on, so that you can get those done. Roasting, if you're roasting garlic, all you have to do is chop the top off and then wrap it, put it in, and let it sit, and then put it in the oven and let it roast. So you can still get using the whole bulb there. There's some other different kind of marriages made in heaven, I like to call them, food synergy. So we see tomatoes and olive oil. You only need like barely 1 teaspoon with tomatoes to get 2 to 15 times more absorption of the lycopene. So, and they're better cooked, like we had said before. I accidentally, I thought I'd have to make 50 servings of something. So I had 9 Roma tomatoes and 2 containers of cherry tomatoes that were all ready to go ripe. So I roasted them. So, and just started popping them like crazy when I saw them. But so you can eat them raw, but tomatoes do give you a lot of release of the lycopene when it's cooked with just a little bit of olive oil. And you can finish it with the olive oil. Sometimes it's nice to finish it with. Bruschetta is great, things like that. Or you can cook it and add it into the sauce. Green tea and lemon is awesome. Anything with vitamin C, lemon's typically what we pair with green tea, but it makes the catechins that we talked about in class 1 more available. So it's good, and it helps kind of take a little bit of that grassiness off. So you can use bottled lemon juice. You can use a lemon that slice in there. So, but just a little bit of lemon really helps with the catechins in the green tea. And then turmeric is really strong there. It's an herb used throughout Asia for the color, not so much the flavor. I don't know if you tasted it. It's not really particularly great. It's not off. The color is beautiful. The active ingredient in turmeric is curcumin. It's not cumin. It's curcumin. And it's super antioxidant, super anti-inflammatory. I was listening to a podcast this morning with Dr. Wheel on, and he mentioned, it was like, ooh, he mentioned curcumin. So in turmeric, you've got about only 5% curcumin in there, but you can increase that 2,000% with black pepper. And it just takes a couple shakes. So so you always want, when you have turmeric, to have black pepper. So I moved it up here, Candy, and I thought at first that somebody just hadn't put it back in there, but I've had it back in there and it's not doing anything with me. So can you work your magic? Okay. So always check turmeric, you've got black pepper in there. So, okay. So I know soy is a big one. So should breast cancer survivors avoid soy foods? Very understandable concern. Soy is a complex food made up of many compounds, and your body takes soy and breaks it down into smaller building blocks like everything else, so it can cross into the body. And our bodies do very well with whole foods. Now, here's the thing. Our brains are wired for fear. So if we hear something about soy and cancer, that's scary, and we cling on to it in imprints. And it's very hard to override, even with good evidence. And that's what we see even with healthcare workers. A lot of them remember in the 2000s when there were some animal studies that came out that said, oh, this is pro-cancerous. And first of all, we found those studies weren't well done. Second of all, they were done on mice. Mice have a different metabolism for estrogen than we do. So those are not things that we can make these conclusions based on. So the well-done science says there is no relationship between soy as a whole food and cancer recurrence, even estrogen positive breast cancer. Now, so a couple other things to on, because I know it's like, okay, tell me more, Teresa. I really want to understand this. So, okay, phytoestrogens just means plant estrogens, and that's what we find in soy. They're not the same as human estrogen. So you're not just eating estrogen when you're eating soy. And also our bodies produce human estrogen at a very high level, much higher than we can ever eat. So the amount of plant estrogen we consume in soy foods is not really large compared to what our body. So it's small what we get in soy foods compared to what our body produces. And then one other fact to add to that is, as humans, we have two estrogen receptors, alpha and beta. The alpha is kind of the one linked to breast cancer. Beta, not so much. And isoflavones from soy, they tend to bind to the beta. So here's the bottom line. When you consume soy foods like soy milk, tofu, tempeh, soy nuts, edamame, you get very healthy and far from even remotely large amounts of isoflavone compounds. If you want to see what the AICR.org says, you can go to their website and there's a tab called Research, and you can read more. And for breast cancer hormone positive survivors, even the most conservative will say 1 to 2 servings is fine a day. A day. That's the most conservative. Now, some of them will say as many as 5 is fine. Okay. So I eat probably 1 to 2. Today I had it on my oatmeal and I have it for lunch. Most days I do. It's just so easy. Tofu is so easy, and I add a marinade, and then I use my air fryer, cook it up, and I could make 2 weeks at one time, and I'd be good. You know, I make about a week, and then, but I have before made 2 weeks. So it's just so easy. It's full of fiber. It's full of calcium and protein. So
They need a better doctor than me.
oh, okay. We're gonna have to do it with that. Okay.
Yeah.
We are making do. Okay, so the next time we use that is next week on Wednesday night. So
I don't know. I mean,
it's dead.
it's dead. And if it's batteries, they're rechargeable type batteries, then it makes no sense. So I have to pick somebody. And I can't even figure out how to get into it too.
Yeah, okay. Well, so it wasn't my touch. It was something deeper. Okay.
Sorry.
Nope. Also high in potassium, calcium, potassium. The tofu has, now not all soy will have those. I'll talk more about tofu. So I don't recommend soy powder or pills. I'm not saying like if you want a little protein, you know, we look at protein powders, but I really don't. I don't advocate going for just these isoflavones, like extracted. Your body, everything we have says it does better in the whole foods. So, and there's a lot we probably don't even yet know about whole foods. So what we know about soy foods and its safety is really linked to whole foods. The studies that we've looked at in the populations that eat a lot of soy in the Asian, they're not eating powders and pills. Okay. So we don't know that they're dangerous, but that's the research that I'm looking at to give you recommendations. That's not what I looked at. So, recommendations, soy foods are good for you. 1 to 2 servings, perfectly safe, avoiding the powders and the pills. And you don't have to have soy to be super healthy. You don't. It just makes it easier. It's kind of cheap. So, yes. Okay. So think about what your takeaway is so far. Go ahead and write that down. I'll try and remind me to collect them. I do like writing down the takeaway because there's something about writing down. I want you to remember, I throw a lot at you, and I know the research says about 80% you're going to lose in a day or two. So by writing down at least one point, and then if I can remember to share, then that's another point where it helps you learn this, because I know you're here to learn and then apply this. So, okay, action steps, looking at maybe adding tea to your, or lemon to your green tea, you know, increase 1 cruciferous this next week. See if you can start setting a habit, and don't feel guilty if you don't get your broccoli set for 10 minutes. I try and do that, but it's not always 40 minutes. I eat so much vegetables that I'm not freaking out if this is my one of the week. Oh my goodness, I didn't get a job for 40 minutes. So I read them all the time. So make sure that pepper and turmeric are together. See if you want to add just a dash of olive oil. Don't feel guilty about that. So mincing your garlic, things like that for next week. So, okay. So let's get back topics, especially with the soy. So
Soy decreases sex drive.
I'm sorry.
Support that?
No, but that's interesting. No, I have never seen that. So, yeah, we don't want to do that. So, but good question. So, okay, so you guys don't need to. You can see me
So
here.
what's like a turmeric supplement?
Um,
I know Whole Food, yeah, I mean, I take a supplement,
Yeah.
I don't assume any good, but I take it, but I
Yeah.
should be putting it in my food.
yeah, I would start putting it in food.
So
I
where do
have
buy it? I don't know where to buy it.
turmeric?
Yeah. Is
Oh.
it like in the spices?
Yes, it's in the spices, and then you can get a huge pack, because when I make the chai tea for gifts, because that golden spice chai tea, sometimes I'll make for gifts for people. I get it from like Nature. I'm sure Fresh Thyme has it too, because they have bulk. They have bulk stuff there. So yeah. Now I've never used the raw. I don't know if the raw looks kind of like an orange ginger. So, yeah, turmeric is used in a lot of recipes in other places of the world. So just starting to add it, and sometimes you can just add it without, like the recipe won't call for it, won't affect the flavor. So, but that chai tea is really good there. I do have people that do take like turmeric supplements that are cancer survivors, and I get it. And if I was a cancer survivor, I would definitely consider that, but I would go food first.
Okay.
The big thing about supplements, but always let your doctor know, because it can interfere with if you're on treatment. So, but also make sure that there's a third-party testing. Usually it's, I think it's NSP and USF. But supplement industry, every test I see, if they test 20 samples, 18 or 19 of the samples are fraudulent. In other words, they have less than half of what they say they are, and then you have to remember that that other half is filled with stuff that's not even on the label. So you could get an allergy to it or something. So you've got to, there is no, and there will never be any regulation of supplement industry, because it's so money making. So, and the lobby groups are so huge. So, but it's so fraudulent. So, so just make sure if you're ever doing that, you get it from a very reputable source that's have some third party testing. So, but yeah, turmeric is very strong with the evidence. Again, you got to be careful about too much, because it could interfere with other things. And when we get supplements, we're always competing for some of these things. They are transported into our body through carriers, and there's only so many carriers, and that's where Whole Foods just makes sense. So, okay. So we're gonna get started with the dressing for. Grab a bowl. So this is similar to last week, a little different, that I'm going to use to coat the coleslaw with, because normally coleslaw has a mayo kind of. If you want to try out, there's some tofu-based mayo substitutes, but I didn't want to get too complicated for this, so I wanted to keep it simple. Usually a peanut sauce is really goes over very well. So, but if you come up with, let me know, because I'd love to come up with some other alternatives, because I do have last week kind of the peanut theme, and then this week too. But taste is so important. So I want to make sure it tastes great and it's easy to do. So peanut butter, a little bit of coconut aminos. Remember that coconut liquid aminos that instead of the soy, a little bit of sriracha, give a kick. If you don't like the kick, you can leave that off. And then ginger and garlic. Now I'm just doing the powder. You're fine to do that, but if you want to do the garlic, I have garlic all the time. I go through probably 3 bulbs a week. So, but that's another step. If you're just wanting to get out, in and out of the kitchen, you can just use the powder. Has a lot of benefit, ginger and the garlic powder. So lime, we're going to do 2 tablespoons. Actually, I can get this is a big lime. So I can get a little more than 1 2 tablespoons there. Remember, you can just squeeze it. I can practically squeeze this too after I put it in the microwave for 22 seconds or so. So we're going to add that. And I think, is there water in there? I'm recalling there's a little water. Half a cup. Okay, I didn't set that out. I was like, oh, I think so. It just helps it coat better. It's a nice sauce without if you wanted to dip it, but it just goes further then. So actually, I'm going to get the whisk out. With peanut butter, whisk works really well.
You put brown sugar in there?
I did. I put PJ with them. Yeah. It's just, it helps it for the flavoring. You can try it without. Go ahead and try it without and see if, you know. It's big. Oh, no. Usually, okay, this I can't find it. Well, I think they have the coconut aminos, not the coconut liquid aminos. So at Walmart, it's off and on. It's in the Asian section usually. Yes. At Hy-Vee, they put it in health food. So they put it in that. So, and each Hy-Vee is different. So, you know, I know that's for a good reason, but it drives me crazy because I hit different Hy-Vees. So there we go. There's our sauce. So that's that simple. So for the salad, we're going to chop up. Now I'm going to use both green and purple cabbage because this has got more antioxidant and this has got more anti-inflammatory. Okay, so they both contribute a lot. It's pretty amazing when you look at the research. So you can do all of one because I know it's hard to, that's not going to be good. It's hard to use the rest of it. So, okay, remember the first class or the rainbow, I messed up and I cut it down there. Remember rainbow, we cut this way. And then we take off the layers, take a couple layers, add it down, and then do the, can you guys see? Okay, let me get you guys, I'm sorry, you can't see. Oh, there, thank you. Sorry, I just thought about that. Okay, let me see. You guys can see a little bit better there. Let me move this out of the way so you can see. So, okay, for the rainbow, we went this way, took off the layers, and then cut them in thin strips. For here, the most common ways, you know, put it, stand it up, carefully go through. It is pretty solid. And you can see here, these, you don't see many gaps in them, so they're pretty fresh. When you've got a lot of air, it's a little older. So, so I'm going to just get it into a quarter. So I'm going to put that down and go right through there. And then now I've got this here. It's like a triangle. Same with cauliflower. I'm just going to cut that out. So now I'm down to just the leaves here. So I'm just going to be able to cut some of that. Just usually I get close to 2 cups on a medium cabbage for a quarter. So I can get 8 to 10 cups in a whole cabbage. So, I mean, it's very economical. Unfortunately, once you cut it, you got a couple more days, but you're not going to get 2 weeks out of it. Sure.
Do if you bought 2 cabbages.
You can pickle it. You can, you know, chop. You can, you know, make fish tacos. I mean, there's different things that you can use the cabbage for. So it is tough. Any other ideas, guys?
I mean, would you?
Soup? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, borscht. Borscht is great. I love borscht. So soup. So cabbage soup. So that's a great idea.
Eat it in wedges. It's the red cabbage is very good in wedges. It's
Oh.
very sweet.
Okay, there you go. I love it.
Smothered with blue cheese dressing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got, I usually like to do 4 cups. It says 6 cups total. Sometimes I've done 1 cup of carrots and it's kind of like, oh, I could use a little more carrots in there. So usually I'll go with 4 cups of cabbage and 2 cups of the shredded carrot there. And then some scallions. So nice in there, some cilantro. Remember the cilantro we have in the water there, and keep that. That'll keep good for almost 2+ weeks. So I'm going to mix that up. And my sauce here, we're just gonna pour that over. I'm just gonna use, it's gonna be easiest to use my fingers here to touch that all. Now, if you want to make this a bulk salad, I do find it's best if you, the sauce is best kind of like a half an hour before you serve it. When you get to like 2 days later, it kind of gets a little undesirable, let's just say. So I have my little containers that I just put them in, and then I store them because the cabbage and the carrots and everything's going to stay for 3-4 days easily. So you just want to add the sauce just before. So there we go. So we've got nice cabbage with good flavor there. So we'll get a chance to try that. Okay. So then tofu. So let's talk about tofu. So this is the easiest ever tofu recipe. Now in the other classes, I do saute tofu, but this one has the tomato. So we have the tomato and the olive oil, which make a great marriage there. We've got smoked paprika, chili powder, red pepper. It's so easy. It's got stuff that you can have on hand all the time. Now tofu is, does anybody know what tofu is made, what the ingredients are? Anybody guess? Soybeans, but water's number one. Soybeans, calcium sulfate. That's it. It's curdled soybeans. That's it. So what else do we know that's like curdled? Yeah, cheese. Yeah. So I just poured off the water there. This is extra firm. The difference between soft firm and extra firm is how long it's set with the curdling. So this has the least amount of water. So it was set the least amount of time. So firm, extra firm, I don't see a lot of difference. Sometimes I do. I usually don't get soft for what I'm doing. There is another tofu that is, you don't have to refrigerate. It's silken, and it's a different coagulant used with it. It's glucodelta-lactone that's used for it. It's hard to find in the regular grocery stores. Hy-Vee sometimes carries it, sometimes not. They always change where it is. I usually go to the nature store because that one's near me, or Fresh Thyme, to get this. It's not too expensive. Let me show you what it looks like. We use this typically in soups or custards or cheesecake or puddings or dips. So it's just a different coagulation that ends up with a little different curdling. So it has a teeny bit of water in there, but not really. It kind of broke off. But can you see how that's silky? It's got that silky appearance, and it breaks down really, it breaks off pretty quickly. So I want you to see that. I do use it, and my daughter is actually using that tonight for dinner. I'm not sure what she's making. So she got all the ingredients. So it's going to be surprised when I get home at 7 tonight. But she went into the Asian store by herself. There's a cute checkout guy. She asked to go by herself. He wasn't there. So I know, I was still bummed. She had worked up the courage to ask for his number. I was like, whoa, okay. So, but she went in and got her ingredients. I gave her the money, and she got tofu. She got mushrooms, rice paper. So we'll see what she watches TikTok. So that's where they get their recipes nowadays. So, okay, tofu. I'm going to do this different, but I'm going to show you, like, if you like, for my lunch, I have sauteed, air fried, like meatloaf slices. And that's a very common way to use tofu. And you need to get the water out of tofu. It's bland. It's kind of meh color. Kind of gray, off-whitish. So you want to get out the water so you can put in flavor to it. And then you can also then kind of evaporate more water when you cook it so that it's crispy. So typically what I'll do, and I'm going to break this up for our recipe today, but if I was at home, I would slice this 8 slices. And then I would put it on a towel on the counter. I put my 8 slices, fold it over nicely, and then I would put a cutting board on top, and then I'd put a pile of clean dishes on it. Why? Get the water, weight it down. Okay, so I used to do it in one whole block, and that's what you might find in the instructions. But my daughter, my 21-year-old daughter, I saw her one time doing this. I was like, that makes brilliant sense, because when you try and do the brick, try and put the cutting board on top of the brick and then the dishes on top. What happens? Yeah, yeah. You pray that it doesn't. So yeah. So then after, it just needs, especially when you do it this way, it just needs like a half an hour. And then you can add a marinade. Then I'll put it in my kind of baking pan with my marinade, or you can saute it straight like that. One child likes it sauteed with nothing on it. She'll add the sauce. She'll make her own little combination, put on top. Or you could use like the sauce, even honestly from the coleslaw, and you could use that as a topping. So there's all kinds of different, sauces you could use on top. But it's very convenient to have it already marinated and just throw it into whatever. So, and that way, when it's in the meatloaf slices, I can cube it into cubes and throw it into a dish, like a bowl, or I can throw it into a wrap, or, just use the slices that way. At lunch, it'll be on top of my roasted veggies. So, so there's lots of possibilities. And when you cook tofu, you can saute it in the pan here, which gives it like, it's a different texture. It's, usually it's a teeny bit of oil. You get a firmer outside, softer inside. When you do it air frying, you kind of dry it out more so. And then when you do it in the oven, if you toss it in cornstarch, you can get it rock hard, like bounce off the table hard if you want to, if you like that crispiness. Now, for some people, the best place to start is to go to a restaurant and order tofu, because you're like, this is so foreign to me. So, see how it is in a dish that a restaurant makes it. We have several restaurants nowadays. It's much easier than it used to be to get tofu. So any Chinese or Thai restaurant's going to definitely have it. I've seen it on some other menus too. So, but today we're just going to do it super quick. There's a little bit of water in the bottom. I'm just going to drain that off. I'm going to get off as much, but I'm not going to do any soaking of it. I'm just going to break it up here. Go, and then I'm going to get my pan, and I'm just going to cook here. And then I'm just going to check that I have the heat there, my hand about 6 inches up. When I feel that heat, I'm going to add my oil. And I'm going to give it a second to heat up there a little bit, the oil, so that it's not soaked up immediately I'm going to add the tofu and the red pepper. So I just used the jar red pepper, another great ingredient to have on hand. I just chopped it up a little bit. So let's go ahead. Let's see, I think that's, make sure. Yep. So I'm going to add this. And what we're going to do now is try and evaporate off some of the water to give it that chunky kind of egginess to it. Get that going there, keep the lid off, just go up a little bit more in heat. There we go. Okay, we're gonna let that cook this a little bit. And then we're gonna add the tomato paste. I've got tomato paste here. Tomato paste is nice because you don't have to worry about no added salt. Just don't get the seasoned ones because they usually add salt, but this only has 20 milligrams of sodium in it. So it's enough for 2 tablespoons. So this is 6 tablespoons. The other tablespoon, I just put them on a cutting board in the freezer like this. And the next time I open the freezer, I'll take these off and put them in a little container. That way I always have tomato paste. That way I don't waste it. It's not the money. It's just having it on hand is really nice because tomato paste is sweet. It's just cook tomatoes. So it's really nice. So we have that ready. I have the smoked paprika, my favorite spice ever. So if you want to smell that, you can. Chili powder, remember chili powder, we don't want to get Tomes and McCormick. We want to always get another brand. So I've got that here ready. So we're gonna add that, and then, you can add some optional hot sauce if you want. Watch the sodium, some of them are really fine, but some of them are high in sodium. And then we're gonna serve it on, I think I had a lettuce here. Oh, you can serve it on just a lettuce leaf and then roll it up and eat it, or you could just serve it on greens. And I don't know if one thing I've learned as my journey is that it's very easy to just top up greens and put it underneath stuff. Our recipes don't do that, probably because, back when our grandparents were farming, we didn't have a lot of dark greens. We had iceberg lettuce, so, but it's just something we never thought of before. But now when we want to get more fighting power, we can just put it underneath, just a little layer of chopped up spinach or dark greens can add a lot to a dish. It's a very easy way. So even though the recipe might not call for it. So we'll give that another minute there. A little more about tofu. So tofu, has been around the Han Dynasty a long time. It's, I get it at Aldi's and Walmart, and it's just under $3 for a brick. So it's super inexpensive. The dating, this is November 9th. So, I always have like 2 bricks ready to cook up into something in my refrigerator. So it's convenient that way. Other soy sources are soy milk. I don't know if I mentioned this class about, I usually try and get at Walmart the UHT soy milk. If I go to Trader Joe's, I get their soy milk, which is in a carton, and it doesn't have to be refrigerated until you open it, because the ingredient list is just soy in the UHT, whereas it's this paragraph in the refrigerated soy milks. So, for these classes, sometimes like we have our account at Hy-Vee, they don't, to my knowledge, have the UHT soy milk. So I'll get the carton one that's unsweetened vanilla, but it still has all kinds of guar gum added to it and stuff like that. And I'm not saying that's like carcinogen, but it's like, I don't want additives. I want as simple as possible. So now when I go to Trader Joe's, nice thing is their cartons are like this big only, whereas the one at Walmart is like this big. Mm-hmm. So, and the one in Walmart's in the juice aisle, don't ask me why, in the bottom. So it's about $5 because it's a big container, but it fits in the top of my refrigerator. And again, you don't have to use it like in a week. It lasts. Okay, let's add our tomato paste. What's that? Yeah, it's a special one for this stove, but yes. So, what were you thinking? Yeah, I'm gonna. There's a lot to cooking pans. I looked up and down. So the problem with Teflon is what it adds to the environment. So there's a lot of not good with the factories that creates the cooking. So the best, if you have a Teflon, what I say is take good care of it so you're not replacing it. It's not super expensive. They aren't. You can get a good pan for $20 to $60, but it's harms the environment. Stainless steel is much better, and I know tonight the speaker is going to talk a little bit about the toxin load, which is another consideration when you're talking cancer, dementia, or health. And we don't often talk about the toxin load, so that's something to think about. So I've looked at copper. It's just hard to get true copper, and it's very expensive, and it's high maintenance. So, can somebody create a pan that is easy to cook with and easy to maintain? Yes, cast iron, but I don't know about you, but I have spent a lot of time seasoning mine, and it never gets I have even one of those chain link. It looks like a to clean it up, and I've seasoned, I put it in the oven, I've ordered grape oil. So if somebody knows how to make a cast iron so that it's really slick, like a non-stick, I would love to. I read all the line. Oh, I love cast iron. I have one. And I have tried endlessly. So yes, that would be great. So if you could teach me how to use my cast iron pan, I would love that.
I feel that for size. I don't need for that. Good space.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, well, that's good. And cast iron is it is really, because it's fine for the environment. They last forever. So they're inexpensive. Okay, so we're pretty close to here. We're just drying it out a little bit. You can see how we're getting kind of a egg texture. I know nobody's going to be like, oh, fool, but this is really eggs. But, it's got the smoked paprika, the tomato. It's got really good flavoring. So I'm going to grab a plate. Just put a little bit on my lettuce leaf, which is, did I hit it? Did I see what I do with the lettuce? I have my lettuce there. I disappeared it. Okay, then we'll just take a little bit here, there, put that there. So see how simple that is? So, can you do this for breakfast and dinner? Something like that. Again, I know tofu is very foreign. We're about out of time. I've known tofu for the last 25 years or so. My mother-in-law is Filipino, missionary, Seventh-day Adventist, which all means she knows how to be very frugal. So, and the Seventh-day Adventist is very about the body is a temple and you take care of it. And they integrate actually in health and wellness into their community, very much so. So vegetarian and vegan is very common in the Seventh-day Adventists. So she taught me, and all my kids have known for a very young age tofu. They're very familiar with it. So it's just about becoming kind of, pulling back that curtain so that you understand it and start to see the dishes and the possibilities. So my kids are normal, they love junk food, and all my kids eat meat. I don't really make a purpose of eating meat, but they all eat meat. So they're normal kids, French fries, canes, that kind of stuff. But tofu is very common. Nobody snubs in my house for tofu. So it's just become so commonplace. And my mother-in-law, she's 96 and has severe Alzheimer's right now. So she's still at home with my father-in-law. But she normally, when she was able, was probably cooking at least 5 times a week with tofu. She'd make gluten balls too. She'd make raisins from grapes. She'd have them out on sheets. So stuff like that. That's, a missionary's life she was in other countries for much of that. So she's taught me a lot. So, but there's so many possibilities out there with the foods from other cultures, from seasonings. So, just don't be afraid to try. The combinations that you will come up with will amaze you. So I'm going to say thank you as we wrap things up, guys. Thank you, my at-home audience. These classes, they are offered free. You do have an envelope in the back of your binder if you would want to make a donation. So that would go straight to the classes. You can make an online donation. Just make sure it goes to cardiology. So there's a drop down when you do it online that you can have it go somewhere and just make sure it's cardiology services. So, but I appreciate, anything, any size donation. To show your support, it shows that this is something that you've benefited from, and then it also goes back to the classes. And please spread the word to your friends and family. So my job is to make the health of this community healthier.